All right, folks, we're going to get things on the road. Thank you for joining us for July 28th, 2020, summer of COVID, murder hornets, and now sharks. You'll see up on the screen information about a town hall that we're having on Monday with council members Chin and Rivera, as well as the Commissioner of the Department of Consumer and Worker Protection. She is going to be covering basically everything workers need to know as people start returning to their workplaces and their offices, what protections their employers are responsible for providing in the era of COVID, and what rules and regulations govern their protections and employment. So I know for one, I just got an email today saying we're back to work in the office on Monday. So I'll be attending this to make sure I know what to expect when I get there. So registration is required. You can submit comments in advance. And we will also have Spanish and Mandarin interpretation. So for those of you who need it, that will be available. So I'm going to stop sharing this and we're going to move into our public session. As I mentioned, we have about half dozen or so people who signed up to be speakers. As a reminder, speaker forms are normally due, in the era of meeting virtually, we ask the speaker forms be submitted the Monday before the meeting by noon. But we're gonna grandfather some people into that tonight who didn't get it in time because virtual meetings are a challenge for all of us. So we're trying to be as fair as possible. Again, you're going to be limited to 2 minutes, and I'm going to be bringing the timer up soon to do that. And we're going to start with Valentina Jones, who wants to talk about the BNCR project, I believe. Valentina?
Okay, the Lower East Side Power Partnership sent a letter to the City Council in support of the Brooklyn Bridge to Montgomery Street Coastal Resiliency Project. We are advocating support for this project in every possible way. We emphasize the fact that there are HESCO barriers placed at Smith and Lansing 2, which is a constant reminder to the residents of the present protection and that there's a need for more to be done. What our understanding was that the work on this project had been paused as of April, and we advocated utilization of every measure possible on this work to resume. We did this on June 29th. We received a response from EDC that said they will be resuming design work on this project this week. The response was July 13, 2020. After a few conversations with the consultants, they will be ready to discuss further with the community and communicate an updated schedule. That's it.
Thank you, Val.
Yes, you're welcome.
Next will be Tommy Loeb. Tommy? Tommy, you there?
Yep, I'm here. Thank you. First of all, I want to update people. After the May board meeting, some of you remember I requested a copy of a document sent by DDC to the board and was initially denied that document. I then applied under the Freedom of Information Act, and I'd like to update you that, in fact, the law department agreed with me and overruled the board and forced the board to send me that document. And I would hope in the future, both the board members, new board members, and staff would familiarize themselves with the Freedom of Information Act so this doesn't get repeated. Now, secondly, I want to raise an issue regarding, in November, the City Council passed the ESCR. They made provision for a community advisory group to be appointed. That had its first meeting, and now at the first meeting, the public was allowed to attend. We've now asked whether the public would be allowed to attend following meetings, and we've been denied. First of all, I believe the open meetings law applies, and these meetings have to be public since they include elected officials, community boards, city agencies. But even in the case of transparency, these should be open to the community to observe, since important information is going to be related, and the community has a right to see both the questions and the answers that DDC supplied. I'm happy to see Assemblyman Epstein on the call right now. So I hope he will weigh in on having transparency, obeying the open meetings law, and allowing the public to attend the community advisory group meetings, not to participate, but to observe. And I would like this to be referred to a community board committee so that the community board will take a position on whether they believe the community action group meetings should be open to the public. Thank you.
Tommy. All right. Next we have Susan Morris. Susan?
Can you hear me?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Right. I just wanted to talk about the ferry change that's happened with the Corlears Hook Ferry. Starting in May, our route had basically been eliminated, the Lower East Side route, and we now are on the South Brooklyn route, which means that we can only go southbound, we can't go northbound. And my concern is basically that we no longer can get to 34th Street, which is one of the two hubs where you can transfer to many other routes. And for those of us who live all the way east, I feel like we're already in a transportation desert. And that this, basically the EDCs did not have any kind of community input. They never put this out there. If it had been the MTA, it obviously would have come to some sort of public comment. And so I actually did I came up with a variety of different proposals about how either they could extend the route one more stop to 34th Street, or alternatively put us on routes that literally almost kiss the Corlears Hook Ferry as it goes by, either the Astoria route that comes from the Brooklyn Navy Yard, or the Soundview route that goes up and down, which is where the only other station that's been affected, the Stuyvesant Code has been added to. At any rate, I had a conversation with people from EDC. It was Roddy Miranda, Franny Civentano, and probably most importantly, Megan Quirk, who's the vice president in charge of this. And all they're really concerned about is numbers of basically having a groundswell of people who are actually using it, where otherwise they will not, at this point, unless there's a groundswell of sort of voices to basically try to get us more access, particularly now with COVID, of people not wanting to be in enclosed spaces, of being able to be on the upper decks of the ferries where you could be outside to actually have transportation, to have this affected. And so I was just hoping that we would basically be able to get some community board support to basically have some hearings at least about getting us additional routes so that we can now go north as well as south. Also on top of that, the way that they've planned it is that you cannot make any kind of transfers from any of the stations that we have going south to go north. You miss it by 1 or 2 or 3 minutes, and so it hasn't been considered at all.
Thank you, Susan. I would suggest that you reach out to our district manager in the office. The email is on the website to ask to have this put on an agenda for the transportation committee. We can't discuss things at full board meetings that aren't on agendas, and they have to start at the committee level.
Would that be Susan?
Yes, that would be Susan.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome. All right. So now we've got, I believe, we had an influx of people wanting to testify regarding the open streets, specifically Avenue B. So we have selected 4, and we're going to start with these 4. John Blasco.
Good evening, Community Board 3. My name is John Blasco. I'm a NYCHA Jacob Riis resident. I'm the district leader of the 74th Assembly District Part A, and I'm a founding member of the Lower East Side Open Streets Community Coalition. I really just wanted to spend a short time thanking the Transportation and Public Safety Committee for supporting the Open Streets Initiative and CB3 for supporting it, and hearing testimony at the committee's meeting on people's experience with Avenue B, Open Streets specifically. Through the coalition, we started of resident and community stakeholder volunteers. We have seen some major improvement. Barricades get replaced faster. They're positioned in the correct spot based on guidelines from the Department of Transportation, and more folks come out to enjoy the streets. At the Transportation Committee meeting, we heard some concerns from FDNY, but given the discussion we had and the various recommendations made, I'm fully confident that we can resolve the matter and make sure that FDNY can get full access to do the great work that they do. And our public health and safety initiative of keeping Avenue B and open streets remains in effect and intact. As a NYCHA resident myself, with limited space due to construction and scaffolding, having Avenue B as an open street as an option to walk is exciting and vital. And I thank you all for allowing me time to give this public testimony. Thank you so much.
Thank you, John. Now we're going to go to Laura Sewell.
Hi, I'm Laura Sewell. I'm speaking today as a longtime neighborhood resident and the executive director of the East Village Community Coalition in support of the Transportation Committee's resolution on the Avenue B open street. DOT gave the Lower East Side Open Streets Community Coalition stewardship of the Avenue B open street just 1 month ago, and volunteers are now faithfully placing barricades every morning, monitoring them throughout the day and moving them aside in the evening. They use their own funds to paint the barriers and build new legs. I've never seen such a groundswell of support for anything quite like this. So we really appreciate the Transportation Committee's efforts to identify several creative solutions that would help FDNY improve their response times without sacrificing the health and economic benefits of the Avenue B open street. It's well used by a diverse group of neighborhood residents. The sidewalks are very narrow, especially with the restaurants that are open there. You really need to walk in the street. We now have an open line of communication with Battalion Chief Spillane, and we hope to work with our fighter fighters and the committee on the best solution for all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Laura. Now we're going to go to Andrew Gilbert.
Hello, I'm also a CB3 resident, and I'm the volunteer coordinator of the LOSCC, Lower East Side Open Streets Community Coalition. And I'm also here to speak in support of the Transportation Committee resolution on sending suggestions to the DOT about how to improve the open street so that both the local residents, the local businesses, and FDNY's concerns can all be addressed, and we can have a more successful, more beneficial public environment for everyone involved. I think, you know, we appreciate everyone at the committee. We did a lot of work at the committee level, drafting a resolution that takes into account all of the stakeholders' needs. And I think we presented a list of 4 or 5 really good options for not just, you know, it's not even a situation where, you know, we're giving something up to place these concerns, but rather we have a number of proposals that will both make the street safer in terms of emergency access, while also giving more opportunities for, you know, outdoor exercise, outdoor transportation, reducing pedestrian congestion, and making it a more conducive place for things like the open restaurants and to help businesses that are struggling. And so I hope that the full board will support the resolution. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrew. Our last speaker on this issue is Sophie Meyerowitz, I believe is how I say the last name. Apologies if it's not.
No worries, Merowitz. Thank you so much, full board, for hearing us out tonight. Thank you to my fellow founders of the Lower East Side Open Streets Community Coalition. As a co-founder of LOSC and a former public member of CB3's Transportation, Public Safety and Environment Committee and an East Village resident, I wanted to formally introduce myself to the full board. The New York City Department of Transportation, as you now know, made us an official partner of Avenue B's Open Street in late June. And we are a group of East Village and Lower East Side community members, business owners, and nonprofit leaders who formed with the goal of stewarding and maintaining Avenue B as a shared street for safe and socially distanced recreation. As Laura mentioned, our sidewalks are super narrow, and it is a crucial public health safety need for the neighborhood. Since the group was given stewardship, as John mentioned, the barriers have been consistently replaced and maintained and have suffered less damage. And we hope that that effort hasn't gone unnoticed by the board. And a few examples, I just wanted to kind of paint the picture. I've seen families pushing strollers and spreading out, not having to walk single file, less crowding on sidewalks, cyclists, joggers, and pedestrians getting exercise, and kids playing outside after getting stuck indoors. Neighbors greeting neighbors and checking in with one another. More room for those waiting for emergency food distribution and groceries. This open street is a crucial public health need and no small joy to a community that has suffered greatly as a result of this pandemic. We have won a groundswell of volunteer support of 50 volunteers from local businesses, families, and individuals who have been robbed of their summer programming outdoors and are dedicated to managing this open street. We thank the board for supporting the Open Streets program and the Transportation Committee, who has been working to find the solution that will allow the Avenue B Open Street to succeed moving forward, including their resolution earlier this month, as has been mentioned, proposing traffic flow adjustments and a quick response, and working with our FDNY partners. Thank you.
Thank you, Sophie. Thank you, everybody. That is basically the end of our main public session, but we do have a special presentation. I'm going to take the timer off for this one. Russell Frisch from the NYC Census is here to give us an update about census, and there he is. Russell, go ahead, floor is yours.
Hey, thank you. Thank you so much for having me. I hope everyone has heard of the census. I hope you all, in particular, have done your census form. If you have not, please do that right now. And I can give all the resources if anyone needs to call or fill the form out online. Those are the two options to do it. If anyone asks you how to complete the census, there's a phone number, which I can put in the chat, and a website to go to, and folks can do it. They don't have to have gotten a mailing. They don't need a special code. They can just do the census regardless of any other potential barriers. The census is for every single person, and that is a super important detail that we want to stress as much as possible. I do want to give us some numbers for your area and for the city. So New York City as a whole right now has a 54% response rate. So that's just over half of New York City residents have completed the census. Just for some context, the country as a whole, because it's of course a nationwide effort, the nation as a whole is at 62.6%. So we're pretty far behind the country as a whole. And let's get a little bit more detailed. Manhattan as a borough is at 55%. So we're doing a little bit better than the citywide average, but not by much. CB3, so if you cut the data just around your community board, you're at about 56%. So again, a little bit higher, which is great, but still, that's still only 56% of the total people who live in CB3. And if you want to cut it by neighborhood, the Lower East Side is at 59% response, and Chinatown is at 53%. I can pull up some other numbers if anyone needs that. But thinking about really about half of the city has responded to the census. So if you think like, we don't want half of a hospital, we don't want half of a school, we need everybody to complete the census so that we all get the resources. There was an article in the New York Times a couple weeks ago about wealthier New Yorkers being out of the city. And that's a huge issue because just because they have the personal resources doesn't mean that they can just not respond to the census because they don't think that their neighborhood might need it. It actually comes down as to the state level and the citywide level, right? So every single New Yorker counts. We are all really in this whole thing together. So I'm happy to answer any questions folks have about the census. I urge you all to reach out to your friends and family, make sure that everybody you know has completed the census. And the last thing I will say is that we actually are running a week of action this week. We're doing a big push during this specific week. We already had a bunch of events yesterday and today. Some are virtual, some are in person. But I would urge all of you to join us. We have hundreds, and I believe we have almost 800 volunteers citywide at this time to participate, whether that's phone banking, text banking, all of that. And I can put some links in the chat for folks to sign up. So thank you again. I'm happy to answer any questions folks have or anything else. Thank you.
Thanks, Russell. Community board members, if you have any questions, please use the raise hand function. May, I see you have your hand up. Go ahead.
Yes. So you mentioned this is the Census Week of Action. And for example, if our community board wanted to gather some volunteers to do some outreach, maybe by phone or, for example, by phone, is there a list of, does NYC Census 2020 have a list of residents in our area that we could call that, you know, maybe you called before and they didn't answer the census, so you weren't able to reach them?
Yeah, absolutely. So
could you cut a list for us?
So I could definitely cut the list specifically for CB3 or for your neighborhood. That would be, I would love to work with you on that. We actually just did last night, we did a big phone bank specifically for the Upper West Side with the Assembly member, Danny O'Donnell up there. So we can cut lists however groups would like to use them. And so, yeah, I would actually urge you to contact me directly. I'm a Manhattan field associate for the census. And so I can put my email in the chat. Just shoot me an email and we can talk about ways to do a phone bank specifically for your neighborhood.
Okay, great. Because there are many members who are already involved, maybe through their own organization, but some may not be involved. So we just want to do more, to fill in the gaps.
Absolutely. And I on that note, I'm going to put two links also in the chat here so that if folks are interested in actually signing up to volunteer with us, we have our weekly schedule. So we have phone banks every day of the week, various times throughout the day that you can sign up and join us anytime that works for you. And that's that first link, nyc.gov/census calls. And you can sign up for whatever day works best for you in your schedule. And then we have a friends and family outreach plan to help you reach out to folks in your own personal networks. And so those two links are in the chat if folks are interested. We would love to have more volunteers.
Thanks, Russell. We've got one more question from our board chair, Alicia.
Hi, Russell, and thank you so much for coming out tonight to talk to us about the census. I am curious, I know that before the census got started, they were expressing how the African-American community was very low in turning out their census forms. And I'm curious to find out if that's still the case, if you know the data on that just yet.
So I can look at the data available to me. Again, so we're a city agency. We're not the Census Bureau, obviously. So we don't have the actual responses. We just can know based on what the public data that the Census Bureau is putting out. And yeah, so we're basing our information off of that. But what I can look up quickly is a racial breakdown. I don't know if I'm going to be able to give enough information that will be satisfactory, unfortunately. We would love to see all of that breakdown, but at this time, yeah, I can't, so I don't know, yeah, so I don't have access, unfortunately, to the data itself. Yeah.
Russell, if you can maybe work on that and get it from whoever you need to get it from, and then just send it to our district manager's office, you can share it with us.
Absolutely.
Robin, you've got the last question.
Yeah, hi, Russell. Thanks so much. I actually got a call last night from somebody about the census.
Great. That's good to know. Yeah, that's good to hear.
Beside the phone banking, is there any online tools? Because I'm part of a cooperative, there's 850 units and I could send something out, for example. So is there something like that that you could share with us as well?
Yeah, absolutely. If you go to the Census Friends and Fam link there, we have Dear Neighbor letters that we can send you a packet of that you can distribute within your building. And that would be great. And the last thing I want to say, this is a common question that comes up. The census itself will end on Halloween, right? So October 31st is the last day to complete the census on your own. The Census Bureau will be sending out all of their enumerators. So the folks that go and knock on doors, they will start going out in the next couple weeks. So if you have not completed your census, you might get a knock on your door. So that's something you can tell folks if they are wondering about that. But thank you so much, and I'm happy to answer any questions. My email is there. Feel free to reach out. Thank you.
Thank you, Russell. Appreciate it. All right, folks, we're going to move on to our reports from elected officials. As a reminder, reps, we're giving you 2 minutes. Please try to keep it brief and don't go over those 2 minutes. I'm going to not put the timer on because a lot of people find it annoying, but if I find you guys going long, I'm going to put it on. And we have a couple of electeds on. We're just going to ask them to keep it to maybe 5 minutes. 3 hot topics. I only see Harvey and Brad on. I think everybody else has reps, so we'll start with Assemblyman Harvey Epstein.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking the time. I just wanted to talk about a couple of quick things. One is a quick Albany update. We, as people may know, we were back in session last week, and we had, trying to do a cleanup that we weren't able to do in March. I know you mentioned the Department of Consumer Affairs. I was able to pass a Consumer Affairs bill that gives the Department of Consumer Affairs the ability to get a judgment against employers who steal back wages. Up to now, they've had to go to a hearing, administrative hearing, and then to court. We were able to get that bill done. Our separation of film children, our SCAR bill, that now we'll be able to have information about kids who have been separated by the federal government that are now in New York. We'll have an accounting bill, and we'll be able to provide services to those families. Brad and I were able to finally get our private equity or predatory equity study bill done, which will be the first in the state and maybe in the nation of figuring out how private equity funding is affecting our real estate market, so we can then actually legislate private equity. Obviously, it's a gray market, so they don't really know what's going on. We were able to pass a lot of other amazing bills. ICE out of court, I was a co-sponsor, and Brad's bill, so he can talk about that. It's really getting ICE out of our courts, so courts are a safe place for our immigrants and other New Yorkers. Our Healthy Terminals bill, really an important bill that allows terminal workers to have benefits. Clearly something that's such an important thing. Another bill that I introduced recently around disability rights that people know this past weekend was the 30th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. We have a bill with Senator Skoufis, which is basically modeling what we did on the federal level, which is saying that we should use our government power to procurement and operationalize hiring people with disabilities. People with disabilities 30 years later have 70% unemployment rates. The opportunities are still really limited for people with disabilities, even though people with physical disabilities may have better accessibility ability. So we're trying to get real government dollars into dealing with people with disabilities. Quick, people around in September, we'll do our virtual office opening. My office has been open on Avenue B for the last couple of months, but it's really not been operational just because we've been in COVID epidemic. If people want to come by, we're in the office now on Tuesdays and Thursdays. It's on 7th Street and Avenue B. We'll have an opening with the Lower East Side Girls Club on September 17th. People heard a lot about census. Last thing I'll just mention is this, we really need to talk about our small businesses and the struggles that they're having right now. Brad and I will be having a press conference tomorrow with a local group talking about how small businesses are struggling and need rent relief, and we're working together to push something forward. We really need to do something for our small businesses, and the thing we can do best for our small businesses is use them. Stop shopping online and stop buying things and spend our money locally. And supporting our small businesses is going to be critical, especially our Black-owned businesses. You know, just go to Mikey's ice cream shop on Avenue A or go to a barber shop and going to our local businesses so they can recover. That's critically important. It's an amazing community we live in, and we should support it as much as possible. And on the open streets, I'll just say Avenue B has been amazing. The coalitions has been coming together, painting every weekend, rebuilding those barricades. People are dedicated to the open streets on Avenue B, and they are doing such a service to our community. We should applaud their work every single day. I get to see it every day when I'm walking down Avenue B, and we should be thankful for their work. I'm sorry, I will have one last thing I'll say. The budget is a mess. We need to push our federal representatives to put some revenue on the table. But if the Senate doesn't do it, New York's going to be a fiscal mess. Even if they do it, we're probably going to be a fiscal mess. We need to push for more revenue. This is what we've been pushing for. We had 105 members of the legislature ask for new revenue sources. We'll have a short window in August to do it. You could be an ally by pushing the governor to say, not cuts, revenue. We don't want MTA fare hikes. We don't want things that are going to affect low-income people. We want real revenue for millionaires and billionaires and people of pied-à-terre tax and mezzanine debt, where people can afford more, should pay more. And that's what we're standing for, and that's what we hope you stand with us for to do. Thank you all.
Thank you, Harvey. Are there any questions for the Assemblyman? All right. Senator Hoylman, you're up.
Thank you, Michael. You run a tight ship. I appreciate that. As a former community board chair, I can definitely feel you on that. Yes, to follow up on Harvey, what a great colleague. And what a good week that we had in Albany. You know, the July session is very unusual. We passed a lot of bills. I personally passed 13 bills just last week alone. That's great. That's a big change from being in the Senate majority. And one of the bills I'm most proud of is called the Protect Our Courts Act, which prevents the Immigrations and Custom Enforcement, ICE, from rounding up undocumented immigrants who are on their way to court or leaving court or going to be a witness or testifying in a civil trial. It's been outrageous that ICE has used the sanctity of our courtrooms to try to deport New Yorkers, and that's going to stop now with our new bill, the Protect Our Courts Act, which passed both houses. Another bill that I'm particularly proud of regards something called SLAPP lawsuits. SLAPP lawsuits are strategic lawsuits against public participation, and they're basically baseless, meritless, frivolous lawsuits filed by very wealthy people like Donald Trump, like Harvey Weinstein, like others who are trying to silence critics. And they do so by suggesting that the critic, let's say it's a tenant leader like Mike McKee, who many of us know from Tenants PAC, was dragged into court by the real estate lobby, and they claimed defamation and had he and his organization for years in court where they racked up hundreds of hours of legal expenses. No longer will big corporations or powerful people be able to do that. The standard for these lawsuits is going to be much higher. That's also going to protect our journalists. The New York Times, MSNBC, other news outlets have been dragged to the courts by the wealthy and powerful. And that's going to stop in New York, and we're going to match other states. Also wanted you to know that I passed legislation requiring a public vote by the MTA board if they decide to reduce subway service less than 24/7 after the pandemic is over. We need public accountability on that. They can't just use the pandemic as an excuse to cut off our subways and leave a lot of people stranded, a lot of essential workers stranded from using the subways in off hours. I passed legislation that would finally ban ghost guns. These are the guns that are made in parts through kits that you can purchase online, and you use a YouTube video to assemble them, and they evade New York's very good gun laws. Those purchases of ghost guns have skyrocketed along with other gun purchases since the pandemic began. it's very frightening, and we need to address it. I'm glad the Senate passed it. And then finally, and on a more lighthearted note, but not inconsequential for many of us, I've heard from a lot of constituents that it's like they're damned impossible to cancel your gym membership during the pandemic, and it's intentional. Subscription services like gyms and other companies make it purposeful that you have to write a letter, get a notary, show up in person to cancel. Now you're going to be able to do it online once the governor signs my bill that I passed. So that's a few of the bills that I passed. I did want to finish on the issue of budget. Couldn't agree more with Harvey. We have to identify new revenue sources if the feds aren't coming in. Unemployment insurance, we've been continuing to work. Caroline Wexelbaum, who's on the phone, has done an amazing job, and I just wanted to thank her publicly in helping manage so many cases. Up to date, we've had 1,244 unemployment insurance cases that we've assisted with. We've closed out 858. So we're making progress, but and no one should be without their unemployment insurance. And then finally, on the census, it is really, really bad, not just in New York City, but in our Senate district, which is only, our Senate district, the 27th, is only responding at 49%. So we are below the nation, below the state, below the city of New York, and below Manhattan. So one of the things I just wanted to share with you, you talk about these rich folks who aren't filling out the census. Talk about free riders. I mean, is there anything more, anger-inducing than that? They're using our public services. They're not paying their fair and share in taxes. And now they're cutting off our ability to get federal funds. I mean, I'm not talking about class warfare, but I will say this. It's my understanding that many of them do not complete the census because they don't want the government to know where their home address is for tax purposes. Now, the truth is the government is not going to know. You're our colleague here from New York City Census. All this information is private, but they've been told by some lawyers that they need to keep their home addresses private. That's infuriating that they're really going to those links and hurting the rest of us. So we're going to crack down on that with more calls, entreaties, phone banks, robocalls to get New Yorkers, particularly in our district, to answer this, to respond to the census. Nothing is more important. We could use it. We're going to lose out as much as $3,000 in education and job training for every New Yorker who doesn't fill out the census. Couldn't be anything more important. Thank you so much, Michael. Thanks, CB3. See you soon.
Thanks, Brad. Are there any questions from community board members? All right, seeing none, we will move on to our council member, Margaret Chin. You just have to hit the space bar or hit the microphone, Margaret.
Okay. I see your big picture. Ricky, thank you, Michael. Just want to say hello to everyone and hope everyone is staying healthy and safe and well. I know it's not easy working from home, and we've been so busy, and especially I had to take a little bit of time off to recuperate after the budget fight. But I think one thing that is really important in our community board area is like how we really going to be able to, help our small businesses, and, restaurants are closing. A lot of our favorite stores are closing. But one of the dining out program has been successful, that a lot of restaurants have applied for permit to have outdoor dining. And in Chinatown, we're actually going to start one with DOT, Rockwell Group, and Hospitality Alliance to close off, to have a section on Mott Street that to have outdoor dining and that really nice furniture to make it more attractive. And this is one way, hopefully, can help some of the small business and the restaurant. But we also gotten a lot of complaints from residents about, some of the bad actors who don't follow the rules and don't do the social distancing and creating a lot of concern, and their enforcement I think one of the places in the Lower East Side got their liquor license taken away. And I think that we have to punish the bad actors and support the one that are really trying hard to stay in business and support their workers and support the neighborhood. Today in the City Council, we had a stated meeting, and I joined with Councilmember Powers, who is the council member for the District Number 4, and with Borough President on a bill to temporarily repeal the commercial rent tax. And that's the tax that the businesses pay on their rent on top of, from south of 96th Street to Lower Manhattan on Murray Street. And that includes Chinatown and the Lower East Side. And you're talking about, paying close to 4% more tax on your rent. So, and this will help businesses who have, annual rent of up to $1 million. So that will really help alleviate some more of the burden during this pandemic. And also we just passed a bill last month about supporting small property owner with some property tax relief. Because we have a lot of, building in the Lower East Side and Chinatown. They're a tenement building and they provide affordable housing. And tax bills were due in July. And we were able to get the bill passed that to give them the extension to October 15. And one of the things was to lower the penalty of the interest rate. I mean, the city still forcing these landlords, if you don't pay your property tax on time, you got to pay 18% interest. It's ridiculous. And we were able to knock it down to 7.5. And that's only the beginning. We still have to continue to find ways to support them because they provide the affordable housing, rent regulated housing in Chinatown and the Lower East Side, and they need our help. And I know that a lot of you were, kept on top of what was going with the budget, and it was months of negotiation, a lot of meetings, because I'm on the budget negotiation team, and like this was so different from the past. I mean, we practically have meeting every other day, and it's like hours and hours. And we were able to pass the budget on July 1st. But, we actually got the vote on June 30th, midnight. So we could say we passed it on time. But it wasn't an easy road. It was really difficult trying to fight to save safety net programs, youth program, because when the preliminary budget came out, in the beginning of the year, I mean, the mayor, the administration, they just zero out all the youth program. And that was like unconscionable. And every social, program from our seniors to health program, everything was up for cuts. And we did manage to save the youth program, at least, most of it. So there is a summer youth program. We were able to at least put back almost 115, $116 million in our youth program. And I really want to thank all the nonprofits in our community that was able to step up and really ready to do this, to provide the services for our young people. And, providing emergency food, domestic violence funding, all those things that we were able to save. But on the capital budget side, I'm really happy that we were able to provide funding together with Councilmember Rivera and the Speaker to the Clemente Cultural Center to really put them back on the right track. And also we're gonna, we also provided funding for exterior lighting for NYCHA, believe it? To make it brighter and safer. And we have to provide the funding from the City Council to do that. And the Rutgers Community Center is finally going to get a new stove so that they can have hot meal for their youth program. But for our senior, it was mainly saving all the NORC programs that are in our district. And we hope that our senior center will be open soon because we want to make sure, look, it's going to be a new way of serving the seniors. But we just can't, keep these centers closed. We have to make sure that they are, participating in providing the good nutritious food that they've been providing all these years. And it's got to be a creative way to do that because, this emergency food program, is not the best. And we have, local nonprofits who are running the center that can do the job, and they should not be left out. So that's one thing that we are, continue to advocate for. And also, making sure that our public schools, have all the resources and whether it's computer or whatever, so that they can take care of the student. And that's still a big question, how school is going to reopen. But we also got to make sure that they have the resources they need. So, yeah, I'm happy to answer any questions.
All right, thank you. We've got a couple of hands raised. First, Michelle Cooper-Smith.
Hi, Councilmember. Thanks for coming. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Sorry, I've been having trouble with my iPad. Thank you so much for coming tonight and speaking with us. I have a question about the NYPD closing the streets in front of their precincts. I believe that your office has been involved in this. I had asked our DOT representative at our committee meeting a couple of weeks ago about this and didn't get any answers about that. So I was wondering if your office had had a chance to follow up on any information requests that you had made about that.
Which street closing are you talking about?
Well, I mean, I just walked around the district this weekend. Elizabeth Street is closed where the 5th precinct is. Broome is, this isn't in your district, this is Carlino's district, but also Broome Street in front of the 7th and East 5th Street in front of the 9th. I think that the only one that I saw in your district was the 5th precinct though, and the street's very closed there still.
Yeah, we'll have to look into it. I don't think that there is no street closing. I mean, they actually, yesterday, they just closed off part of Mott Street to do the setup.
If I can interrupt for a second, sorry, I just wanted to interrupt for a second to clarify. So she's not, Michelle's not asking about the Open Streets program. What she's talking about is that since the protest and
okay.
A lot of the precincts have been barricading the blocks that their precinct is on.
We've been following up that. We, send a letter to the police headquarters and the mayor's office complaining about that, because that's happening all over Lower Manhattan, with all these, the barricades going up. We're still waiting for the response. I mean, it's sort of like, some of it, they're blaming, us for cutting their budget and or passing all these bills, reform bills that are, so they're not being as cooperative as they should be. But that is something that we are following up on.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Next question from Carlin Chan.
Yes, hello. Hey, Margaret. I have a question about the lower section of Moscow to Chatham Square or the Bari. With the street seating there, is that a closure daily? I saw some kind of a sign today. I didn't really, I don't remember it, but it says closed on a certain time. Is that a daily street closure?
It's not a street closure. It's like the outdoor dining. You're talking about from Bayard?
Yeah, the Rockwell group thing.
Yeah, it's not closing the street. It's that they're setting up the outdoor seating so that the restaurant can utilize the space for that. And it's going to be, they're going to kick it off tomorrow with a press event, and hopefully that will help, the local restaurant to be able to, serve food outside and, with nice furniture, with some planting, make it more attractive. And it's, we test it out. It was great. Maybe there are other streets that could do the same thing. So let's try this out and see how, how well it can to help the restaurants in the area.
Well, I think we can expand that, or maybe you can advocate to expand that toward the traditional core of Chinatown.
Well, let's try with this first. You know how Chinatown is, right?
Well, I did the outreach.
You make it successful, and then people will want it. So let's see how this goes. Okay.
All right.
Our final question for the council members from Alicia Lewis Coleman. Alicia.
Hi, Margaret.
Hi, Alicia.
Not a question, just saying thank you again for supporting Community Board 3, and you also and Council Member Rivera for giving us discretionary funds in this very tight budget. So we are so very grateful for everything that you're doing on behalf of community boards.
Oh, well, the community board, I mean, I really appreciate all the community boards and the members. You know, you volunteer and you spend so much time, you know, advocating for the community, and you know, we have to thank you for all the hard work, and you make our work easier. So we love working together with the community board, with Susan, district manager, and all your staff and everyone. So, you know, that it's a great partnership, and we really appreciate that. And hope everyone will have a safe and cool summer. Stay cool, and hopefully we'll come out of this craziness together, healthier and stronger.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you. Val, I saw you put your hand up, but I really want to move on. We took 3 questions for the council member. If you can type it into the chat, maybe she can answer you that way, but I really want to keep the meeting moving.
Well, wait a minute. I just want to have something very brief. I was very good at my public time. Thank you. Margaret Chin, I just want to thank you for the Rutgers Community Center. I remember during Sandy, that was a hub, according to my coworkers. I was a nurse, so I was working, but the social workers came back and said that it was great. Thank you for the Rutgers Community Center. Thank you.
Thank you, Val. Thank you, council member. We'll see you Monday at Town Hall.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, I don't think there's any other elected officials on. If there are, please raise your hand. Otherwise, we're going to move on to the reps. And the reps, as a reminder, if you can try to keep your reports to 2 minutes. I'm not going to put the timer on, but if I feel like you guys are going long, I will put the timer on. Andrew from Mayor Bill de Blasio's office, are you on? Or is anybody from de Blasio's office here? How about Lila from Public Advocate's office? All right, then we go to
Yes.
Oh, Lila, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Hi, Community Board 3. I'm Lifa Chu. I just recently joined the Office of the Public Advocate. I just want to briefly introduce myself, you know, to you guys. And if you have any concerns or issues, you can relay them to me. And I also work with Philip Elson. I don't know if you guys have met him. He's the Manhattan Borough Advocate. He works with that team. And if you just have any questions, just please reach out to me. I'll put my stuff into the chat. And that's it. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Lifa. Lifa, are you replacing Lila?
Was she the previous first Manhattan Borough liaison?
Yes.
I'm assuming so. Yes. Yes, sir.
Okay. So if you can also make sure to email your contact information to our district manager in the office, that would be great.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Luke from the Controller's office.
Hey everyone, Luke from the Controller's office here. I will try to keep this brief in under 2 minutes. 3 quick things I want to touch on from our office. We're really focused on 2 things right now. First is on the economic side and the reopening. The second on schools. On the economic side, this week we came out with an analysis of the Paycheck Protection Program. And what we found about New York City's participation is pretty startling. So what we found is that if New York City was a state, we'd be 49th out of 50th in terms of the percent of businesses that were able to access the program. Specifically in Manhattan, only 52% of businesses which were have employees and were eligible were able to access it. So we need to make sure that we can continue to not only get more federal support, but also that our small businesses can access the programs. What we found was that those numbers were even worse for our MWBEs across the city, which is why today we are proud that the mayor answered our call to appoint a chief diversity officer in every agency across the city. That's something the controller did when he was elected back in 2014, and we've been pushing for ever since. So it's good that the mayor's finally taken that step. On the schools front, I know that's something that's also on everyone's mind. We put out our own set of recommendations around reopening, some of which have been taken up by the DOE, but we still have a number of outstanding complaints and concerns, and really want to focus on communication and making sure students and families know what to expect this fall. So our real 4 areas of concern are: number 1, around childcare. We know this program is not possible if childcare is not accessible, so we need some more answers on that. Number 2, on what are standards for remote learning, specifically making sure there's synchronous live learning options available for children. Number 3, how are we going to make sure we're staffing up our schools and properly training our staff to handle whatever's coming this fall? And number 4, what are the health protocols specifically around access to nurses and what happens if someone gets sick? So we're continuing to push for answers and to make sure that that information gets out sooner rather than later. And we'll make sure to keep you all abreast of any updates that we hear. I hope you all have a great August, and thank you.
Thank you, Luke. Appreciate it. Any questions for the Comptroller's Office? All right, Ling Shah from Nulia Velasquez's office.
Hi, everyone. The Congress is back in session, and Congresswoman Velasquez is in DC today, I'll be very brief. Right now, enough has been said about the hardship. The city is, New York is very hard hit, and our local budget, there's a huge deficit with our local budget, so we really, really need more federal funds. And then, as we all know, there's a huge battle going on in DC with Trump, the president, and the Republicans not wanting to give money to people, but they rather spend money to boost the stock market. And in New York, even though we were the earliest epicenter, but we're not the priority for federal coronavirus funding. So that is the main priority the Congresswoman is working on, is to ensure funding for the home district. The Paycheck Protection Program that was passed by, business can start applying now. That was passed in the previous coronavirus aid package. And then the Congresswoman's next focus to pass the HERO Act and the extension of the $600 unemployment bonus. And also on the side of census, New York is doing really, really bad on the census. We all need to pitch in and remind each other, and to remind people to register, to fill out the census, because we could stand to lose a couple of congressional seats after the census if the current rate, if a lot of people are not responding to census. And at the moment, our district office is not yet open, but we can be reached at 718-599-3658 for any constituent service. And we can also be reached by the Congresswoman's website, also our emails.
Thank you very much. Any questions? All right. Carlin, go ahead.
Yes, hello. Hi, Ling. I would like to address something with Congresswoman Velasquez. Is there any kind of accountability on what, the Wartime Production Act was announced by Washington several months ago, but we still have a scarcity of cleaning products, notably Lysol and stuff. What happened to this ramped up production? It doesn't seem to be hitting consumer shelves.
Carlin, it takes, for any kind of production, it takes time. But if you have noticed things, as a consumer in New Yorker myself, I have noticed that, it's not as good as it was before March, but things are, like sanitizers, masks, and alcohol, wipes, they are slowly returning to the shelf. I remember back in March, there was just no way to buy them, not online, not in the store. Then slowly it started hitting the stores. It was rationed, and I'm starting to see more and more. So it's ongoing, but it's a time process. We should see more. But should you, and where do you see, is there any area that's particularly lacking? Some neighborhoods, some neighborhood stores that's missing more of it than others?
Well, I noticed none of my local drugstores, even a drugstore chains, Rite Aid, Duane Reade. I see knockoff products on the street, on the streets or something, but I don't know how safe they are. But even PPEs, face masks, I don't really see that except on street corners sometimes.
Well, face masks have been, actually, they are sold in the stores now. And then also this, a lot of elected offices are giving them out for free. And in fact, I was out in Sunset Park on Monday with volunteers doing census. I mean, we gave out free masks to anybody stopping by the table. I think even a lot of, also a lot of other census tables, they're doing that too. I mean, as for, I know some of the brands are different. Like, for example, I've noticed like Costco is producing sanitizing wipes because I guess because people cannot get enough of the Clorox, but it is just but it works too. I noticed some of the brands are different these days, but it works.
We have a final question from our board chair, Alicia.
Hi, thank you, Ling. My question is for the Congresswoman. So HUD and Section 8 developments did not qualify for the COVID-19 rental assistance. And I was wondering if there was going to be any type of support for affordable housing residents for COVID-19. Can you find out for us and get back to our district manager and let us know?
Sure, I will. Yeah, I will find out and get back. I guess maybe the assumption had been that in NYCHA and the Section 8, when people's income is affected, their rent can be adjusted. But I understand because sometimes the adjustment doesn't happen so fast. Is that what you mean? So people need some extra aid?
Yeah, especially when there's households where only one income was missing. So I don't want to talk individually, excuse me, but I do know that there are residents that have approached me in my own development that have said that, why don't we qualify for the assistance as well? So I let them know the same thing you basically just said, was that our rents are supposed to be readjusted according to our income when you lose income, but management doesn't always catch up at the same time at the rate that it happens. So they end up owing money anyway.
Got it. Yeah, I'll get back to you.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Ling. Rosie, I'm sorry I skipped over the Borough President's office. Are you here to give a report for Gail?
Gail will be joining us.
Okay, so I'll keep going with other people then?
Yes.
All right.
Thank you.
Victor or anybody from Carolyn Maloney's office? Shivani, I see you're on. You want to give a report from Eulene's office, please?
Hi, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Thank you.
Awesome. So I'll keep it short tonight. It's mostly about legislation. So the biggest one I would say is the introduction of Eulene's cancel rent bill. This is a new quote unquote cancel rent bill. It's actually called the Rent and Mortgage Cancellation Act. And it would provide crucial relief for all residential tenants and small homeowners by canceling rent and mortgage payments for the duration and thereafter. It would allow for tenants to exercise their right to relief, including prohibiting fines, fees, and termination of tenancy or eviction for non-payment of canceled rent. This bill also would set up a small relief fund for small property owners and homeowners to ensure that everyone is protected under this bill. So that is new. And then the other two things is that Eulene's bill, the Rivington Act, was passed in the Assembly. As most of you probably know, the Rivington House was the country's first nursing home for HIV and AIDS, people with HIV and AIDS, and it was shut down due to a backdoor deal, and the community lost that really important resource. So with the Rivington Act, which was passed through Assembly, it strengthens oversight by establishing a transparent process where nursing homes and residential health care facilities are threatened, and requires the Commissioner of New York State Department of Health to ensure that the local community has that same resource elsewhere before closing down. So that was passed in Assembly. Hopefully it'll pass in Senate soon. And then finally, the passage of the of A711, which is protection and assistance to debtors. And so it's also passed in Assembly, and it offers protection and assistance for debtors who have vision problems, such as seniors. Oftentimes, debt collectors will send debtors information that's intimidating, but also just very small. Like text sizes can be up to size 8, which makes it hard to understand what the next steps are, what needs to be done, and it creates this kind of predatory cycle where those people are at risk for getting more in debt. So this would require that debtors who suffer from vision impairment would be able to receive clear and conspicuous notice that communications they are receiving can be provided in larger print and request large print formats for further communication. So that's the legislative side of things. Those are our biggest updates. Also, I just wanted to say we're continuing to do PPE distribution, work on unemployment cases. So if anyone needs any help with that, please feel free to contact our office. I'll put my contact in the little sidebar here. Also, we are still doing our newsletter. We are doing it Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays. So if you are interested in signing up for that, send me an email at my email that I'll leave in the little chat box, and I can add you onto that list. Unless there's any questions, I think that's it for me.
We have a question for you from Jackie Wong. Go ahead, Jackie.
Yes, I'm just wondering where can we find out more details of the cancel rent build? Is that already online, or can you email us the details of it?
Yeah, it is online, but I can also definitely send you some more information or get in contact with you. If you want to email my provided email address that I'll put in the little chat box, feel free to do that and we can talk about it more later.
Great, thank you, Samani.
Thank you.
Any other questions? All right, Deborah Glick's office, I believe, is not with us tonight. If they are, just raise your hand, *9 if you're on the phone to raise your hand. All right, so we're going to move on to Greer from Brian Kavanaugh's office.
Hello, everyone. This is Greer from Senator Brian Kavanaugh's office. I have quite a few updates for you guys. The legislative plan. Just a reminder that Thursday, July 30th is the deadline to apply for the Emergency Rent Relief Program. This is a one-time subsidy for folks who've demonstrated that they have lost income due to COVID-19. There are multilingual applications online, so please don't forget to fill that out. The senator believes that this is only the beginning and that he is looking for the next round of federal funding that will help provide more subsidies for folks who are in need. Also, in regards to fair housing, President Trump last week rescinded an Obama-era HUD rule requiring all localities receiving federal funding for housing and community development to do so in a manner that affirmatively further fair housing. In the state, Senator Brian Kavanaugh introduced a state-level obligation to affirmatively further fair housing to step in where the federal government has not. And that's it for the ledge part. So some community updates. Our office has been diligently working on the advisory committee with other elected officials and community stakeholders in regards to 70 Mulberry. They're currently working with DCAS to select a vendor who will facilitate the community engagement process. We have been receiving correspondence about different values that are needed to be highlighted in the proposal. We encourage people to let us know about their thoughts on the project, and we will continue to do everything we can to make the process as equitable and accessible as possible. Last week, our office, along with other elected officials' offices and community board 3, along with Parks and NYPD, were at a meeting regarding Pier 35 to discuss growing concerns there in regards to maintenance issues and other illicit activities. In regards to that, our office has reached out to City Hall regarding the big belly litter baskets that were promised and advocacy regarding the DSNY trucks on Pier 36 and 42. In our last correspondence, they said that it would be installed in July, but due to COVID, it was to be extended. So we're trying to get information on that. And that is all. If you would like to contact me, my phone number is 212-298-5565. And you can also email me. I'll put my email in the group chat.
Thank you, Greer. Are there any questions for Senator Kavanaugh's office? All right, we've got one more rep, and then we're going to move on to our borough president who just joined us. So Isabel Chandler from Councilmember Rivera's office.
Good evening, everyone. I will try to be brief. A few updates for you this evening. First, Councilmember Carlina Rivera, she released an op-ed on voting. Many constituents, neighbors reached out to our office who had really difficult experiences in the most recent election, and we are meeting with BOE to make sure November is a better experience for voters. And while we're very happy that Albany passed some items that will be kicking in 2023, Carlina believes that BOE needs to take as many steps as possible in the short term as well. We are also still trying to get books around in the neighborhood. You can stop by, or if you have anyone who's interested, can stop by at our office Monday or Wednesday between 12 and 2 p.m. And we'll also be doing giveaways throughout the neighborhood as long as we have books. They're really wonderful books, pre-K to high school. And Michael, thank you so much for sharing information about the town hall on Monday, but we're very excited to be partnering with CD3 and Councilmember Chin to share more about worker and consumer rights. So we hope to see many of you there. Thank you so much. Any questions?
Any questions for Councilmember Rivera's office? All right, we're going to move on to our borough president, Gail Brewer. Gail, is there an earthquake on the airport?
No, my computer's not working, so I'm just surviving with my cell phone. Thank you very much. I'll be a couple of things. First of all, the schools, I know that that's the #1 issue for a lot of parents, certainly for me. So I think they should not open. I'll be very clear, and maybe for elementary, but custodians aren't ready. HVAC is not ready, can't open the windows. You can't necessarily change the filter in an air conditioning and it works, et cetera, and teachers aren't coming back. So I would suggest we need to work on figuring out how to improve the schools during this time period virtually, and then only be in the schools for particular special events, maybe art, et cetera. That's my take on it. I think that's what's gonna happen, but what do I know? But please, let's look for other spaces, even though it may not be, relevant. We still need to find other spaces for students to meet. And maybe we can get some tents. I'm literally searching for tents so that you could put an outdoor tent. That might even work for elementary schools and other special events. #2, affordable housing, something that Community Board 3 is incredibly expert on. So what we're doing is we're talking to every affordable housing expert I can think of, and at least having a listing as to what needs to get done. We did this 7 years ago, and I just feel like we're falling way behind on this topic. So we will be working with the community boards and others to at least have, this is what needs to get done. I'm swamped, and Susan Stetzer is always helpful with every homeless hotel and encampment, just like you are. And it's almost full time to figure out how to be supportive, but at the same time, businesses and residents are very concerned on all fronts. So I'll leave it at that, but it is not where it should be. Another issue that has come up is just, that all the litter baskets on Sunday canceled, and 65% of the weekday service and sanitation doesn't exist. That's a lot of garbage on the streets. And where there's no chamber, no garbage pickup, and certainly challenging. So I wish that would be reinstated. At the same time, no organics pickup. So in New York University, and a group of solid waste advisory board members and others are going to spend, and they have the funding from foundations to do this, 1 year looking to see what we can do to make organics profitable. Otherwise, it's going right to the landfill, which makes no sense. It could all go to composting. So if you want to be involved with that, let us know. Also on that front, our waste, as you know, goes to the 14 sewage treatment plants in the city of New York. And guess what? If we had the lab and if we had 3 people to analyze it and a couple of machines, which we're working to put in place, then we would know 6 days in advance, not just when COVID-19 was a hot spot, but any virus. It is almost 100% accurate. So we're working to make that happen. We're also, we've always been focused on accessibility, and now we focus on the pedestrian ramps. We looked mostly on Broadway to see whether they are installed, broken, in good shape, etc. So a lot of them are not in great shape. We just did a study on that. But just generally, we need to focus, as you know, more on accessibility. Not in your area, but in Board 1, there is a mural on the floor, on the ground, from Reed Street to Worth on Center along Foley Square. And I know there's great murals at Black Lives Matter, but 3 amazing Black artists recommended by the Department of Cultural Affairs put it together. It got a New York Times excellent review. It's been in every architectural magazine, and I hope you have a chance to go see it. Even though there are cars on it, you can still see the amazing art. I wanted to follow up. We are working on 70 Mulberry Street. I think I know there are many positions on Board 3. I'm aware of that, and there are many positions in the community. And so we will take them all seriously and have a process, but very transparent, and everybody's welcome. I hope that we can come up with something quickly, because I know it's of great interest of business, nonprofit, community, everybody. Small business is so challenging. I don't need to tell you, but let us know if there's something we can do. We had walk-arounds today on the Lower East Side. We did walk-arounds in Chinatown. We've done walk-arounds uptown, downtown, midtown, trying to get everybody to have some support. One of the issues is a lot of small businesses are not applying for money. And there is another PPP coming forth from the feds. They need help. Pace University is a great resource. It's almost like you should tell every single small business to work with Pace, give them the number. You can also work with SBS, but Pace is more hands-on. We walked around today, maybe talking to, I don't know, 30, 25 businesses, and most of them had either applied and didn't hear or had not applied. You all know about the census. I know you're tired of it. We have fortune cookies. I think 32,000 are going to be distributed with food, Chinese food around the metropolitan area, thanks to a generous contributor. But we're not in great shape. And I think you know that. There's a great map. It's called Census Hard to Count. My favorite map in the whole world. You can put your address in. It'll tell you exactly what the percentage is on your block. It's very exciting. But you won't like the numbers when you see them, because it'll also tell you what the number of percentage was 10 years ago. And then just as you know, Pier 35, we're all working together. Thank you, Trevor, and thank you everyone who's been focused to try to get it safe. I know we've been working with Parks on that, maybe closing it at night, you know better than I. I know we worked on the Avenue B open street closure issue. And I know that in terms of the park and the ESCR, they meaning the city doesn't seem to want to do interim flood protection measures. They don't think it's possible. And I don't know what to do about it, because I know that's something that's really important to the community. The city feels that the NYCHA buildings are 17% and they have of the area, and they have their own resiliency projects, but I'm glad to keep talking about it if you wish. Thank you very much, CB3, for everything.
Thank you, Gail. We've got a couple of questions for you. First, we'll start with Robin Chattel.
Hi, Robin.
Hi, Gail. Nice to see you. Thanks for all of your incredible work. I wanted to ask you, you made a comment about schools. Of course, as a parent, I'm interested. Do you think if they were to open, you think would it have to be either all or nothing if it's citywide? If one school is prepared to open versus another school, would that be? Do you think that might be a possibility, or again, is it all or nothing?
I would love Manhattan to do our own thing. I've been talking to the executive superintendent. I do think that we need to be, I think it's all or nothing, or all of them will be virtual. But when it's virtual, I'm hoping we could do something innovative. Let me give an example. We have, pop spaces. We have spaces where there could be art, or using the school for very special projects. So we're not just secluded in our homes. So I think that we have to be innovative and think way outside the box. I am concerned because teachers are not coming back from all the principals I talk to, and they have reasons and they're legitimate and we can't do anything about it. And then you have, the custodians are terrific, but if they don't have the right system for the air and the window doesn't open and the filter doesn't change the challenge of the air in the air conditioner, I think that's a problem. So that's where we're at.
All right. Thank you. Our next question is from Michelle Cooper-Smith. Michelle?
Hi, Gail. Thanks for being here tonight. I apologize to everyone who's already heard this question, but I'm going to ask it again. I know that you have spoken out against NYPD barricading the streets in front of their precincts. And I'm wondering if you've had any update on what's going on there. I took a little tour of our district over the weekend, and every 5th, 7th, and 9th, they're still doing it more or less. Thanks.
Well, I appreciate it. We are going to look at the whole borough because unfortunately it's not just in your area. It's pretty much on every precinct. And we're going to take pictures and make a little bit of a stink about it. It's the only way I know how to do it. So your info, we may be in touch, but it's everywhere.
Yeah, happy to send you anything that I have.
We would love it. Thank you.
Any other questions for our borough president? All right, thank you, everyone. So we're going to move on now to our roll call and approval of our minutes from the May 2020 meeting. After roll call, our board chair, Alicia Lewis Coleman, is going to take over the meeting. Michelle?
Thanks, Michael. David Adams. David?
Yes, here.
Thank you. Jeroen Altman.
Yes.
Thank you. Jesse Beck.
Yes.
Dominic Berg. Dominic Berg.
He's not on.
All right, thank you. Lee Berman.
Yes.
Carlin Chan.
Yes.
Jonathan Chu.
Yes.
David Crane. David, you're on mute. There you go.
Yes.
Thank you. Felicia Cruikshank.
Yes.
Woo!
Eric Diaz. Eric Diaz. Alistair Economakis. Alistair.
He's waving. I don't know if you can see his box.
Now, Alistair.
Thumbs up. Alistair. All right. I'm gonna say yes.
Yeah.
I think if you're waving, that's a yes. Shirley Fennessy.
Yes.
Brian Gilliam.
She's a gold digger.
She's not on.
Okay, thank you. Deborah Glass.
Yes.
Andrea Gordillo.
Yes.
Thank you. Herman Hewitt.
Yes.
Trevor Holland.
Yes.
Linda Jones.
Yes.
Valentina Jones.
Yes.
Tatiana Jorio.
Yes.
Lisa Kaplan.
Yes.
Olympia Kazi. Olympia Kazi.
She's not
Joseph
on.
Kearns. Thank you. Joseph Kearns.
Yes.
Michelle Cooper Smith, yes. May Lee.
Oh, sorry. Yes.
Thank you. Wendy Lee. Wendy Lee.
He's not on. She's not on.
Thank you. Thank you. Alicia Lewis Coleman.
Yes.
David Louis. Thank you. Ellen Liu.
Yes.
Michael Marino.
Yes.
Alexandra Militano.
Yes.
Michael Perlis. Okay. Tariq Ramos.
Yes.
Paul Rangel.
Yes.
Carolyn Ratcliffe.
Yes.
Damaris Reyes.
Yes.
Richard Ropiak.
Yes.
Thomas Rosa.
Yes.
Robin Chattel,
Yes.
Heidi Schmidt,
Yes.
Larissa Scheinberg, okay, she's not on. Clint Smeltzer,
Yes.
Anisha Seepin,
Yes.
Sandra Struther, you're on mute, Sandra. Okay, I'll come back to you. Josephine Velez.
Yes.
Yes, it's
Troy.
me.
Okay, thanks, Sandra. All right.
Okay.
Did you
Troy
get?
Velez. Yep, I got you both, Josephine and Sandra. Troy Velez. Troy is out my here. Rodney Washington.
Yes.
Thank you. Kathleen Webster.
Yes.
Jackie Wong.
Yes.
Ricky Wong.
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Michelle. Thank you, everyone. I have to move in the agenda. If Michael can be so kind as to pull up the agenda. We have to move up in the agenda because we have a special guest that's here to talk about Avenue B and street closures. Captain Malloy of FDNY is here tonight. And I really wanted him to speak because I know he has another engagement. He has to leave very, very soon. So let's go to Transportation Committee.
Good evening. This is Captain Malloy.
Good evening, Captain Malloy. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
It's my pleasure. I'm here to assist in any way I can.
Okay.
So Alicia,
So I don't know if it's okay.
Okay.
I'm just here to answer questions. So just if you could just approach me with questions, I'll be happy to answer any questions,
Sure.
and then I'll also give the fire department's opinion.
Thank you. Paul?
Sure. Thank you, Alicia, for allowing us move up today in the agenda. Captain Malloy, thank you for coming on today. I know on short notice and you have to get out of here sooner than later. We understand that the FDNY presented the office with a list of potential concerns following our committee meeting 2 weeks ago with the closure on Avenue B. Could you answer about response times? I know there was some stats given to us. Could you talk to us about recent response times and delays in those response times?
Yes, I can. And I just want to make a clarity on response times and delayed in response. So we have a GIS unit and they track all of our responses from the moment the alarm comes in until what we call is a 1084. A 1084 is the first unit who presses his button that says, I'm here, I'm at the box, or I've arrived. And that's when the clock stops ticking. So it's my estimation that response times don't really show the true picture of what happens to a fire service from the moment the alarm comes in until the fire company is on the fire floor or on the exact spot where the emergency is occurring. But I will tell you this, we have experienced delays in responses, and in particular is Avenue B. We're looking at this, the whole city, but in particular Avenue B, because our company, our fire company that responds along Avenue B is Engine 28 and Ladder 11. They're on 2nd Street, located between C and B. So what happens is when they respond, they'll head up east and then they'll try to turn north on Avenue B when they're met at 6th Street with the barricades. So what happens at that point is one of the firefighters has to get off of the rig, move the barricades, the fire truck has to move forward, and then the last fire truck passed, another member gets off the fire truck, puts the barricades back, and then they continue their response. So what this is creating is that, and I'm going to have to speak in I would be apt to speak in fireman term, but I can't. But this is what I will tell you. If one company is expected to come in first, They have a list of assignments that they must do because they're coming in as the first fire company. Now, if this sequence gets reversed, if the first company arrives second, there creates this mass confusion, and it really makes our operation very difficult. This is what has been happening, particularly in Avenue B. We have 2 fire companies responding to alarms, but they're arriving out of sequence primarily because of the barricade that exists crossing 6th Street along Avenue B. So as a whole, the fire department does not like to see streets that are closed. We are understanding and we encourage what's happening due to COVID. But we are looking for concessions that will make our responses fluid, meaning that we do not have to get off the fire truck, get back on the fire truck while we're responding. So I hope I'm kind of clear on just preliminary what's happening to the fire department due to closing these streets. Is that kind of a good opening to help you understand where the fire department is with these street closures?
That does help. Alicia, I'm going to ask for your help on this as you're the chair. Or am I just going straight into this? Am I going to go straight into my committee report basically with him?
Yeah, you can go right on ahead with your committee report.
Thank you.
Paul, sorry, I have a question, and I can't raise my hand because I'm a host, but I did just want to clarify one thing. Captain Malloy was speaking about the barricades at 6th Street. More recently, starting last week, they're now closing it at 2nd Street between 2nd and 3rd, which causes a huge problem because the fire department could go anywhere north. At least if it's at 6th, they can go some direction. But when they're closed at 2nd Street, they have to go either move the barricades and move people because there's people crowded in the street now, or they have to continue over to Avenue A and go the whole way around, which either way is probably adding several minutes to their time. So it's not just 6th Street, they're now closing it at 2nd Street.
Now, right. I could speak on I could speak on that very briefly, and then you could continue. So we came up with some solutions, and I don't know if they've been disseminated or not. Well, number one, we requested from DOT, if possible, Avenue or 2nd Street could be reversed. This way, instead of responding west, the fire company could respond east, and they won't even have to encounter Avenue B. Or there's another idea where DOT has flexible delineators. These are these plastic sticks that they put into the ground, which would deter traffic, but our fire apparatus can respond over them, and then they would pop back up. Now, over time, DOT would have to replace them, so it would take a little maintenance. And another idea we had was to have, like, security people posted at these intersections, so when they do see a fire truck respond, they could get up, move the barricade, and move it back. We understand this is all resources, these are money, these are personnels, but these are some of the solutions. So mentioning the intersection of 2nd Street and B versus 6th Street, these are 2 separate conversations under the same umbrella of a problem, but there's some solutions we came up with. Is there any other questions?
You said there were some solutions you came up with. I understand that 2nd Street going west is actually kind of impossible due to the construction on Avenue C and 2nd Street. Is that correct?
Well, I spoke to the battalion commander today, and he said no. He said, yes, it does get tight over there. But he informed me that if 2nd was reversed, it would shave off some time, and it would help the FDNY respond quicker into that area. So the construction project is a concern, but I think a greater concern is having barricades blocking the intersection of 2nd and B.
So I believe our resolution that we voted on at committee asked for the 2nd Street reversal, but this is the first time we heard about the delineators as a potential option. So that's something that you would like to see potentially.
We would like to see it. I don't think DOT will be in favor of it, only because it requires a lot of maintenance. 2 or 3 times over those delineators, or I don't know exactly, but a number of time over those delineators, they're going to be knocked over. I believe there's a lot of maintenance involved with those delineators. But yes, it would be a fix for us.
Paul, you've got another hand raised from David Adams.
Sure.
Yeah, hi. I don't disagree with anything about the resolution except for the fact don't have a definite plan yet. And whatever they implement will be fine, I just hope. But I think that we should revisit the issue 6 months after to see that it's working out right and that it's not too upsetting. A small amendment that 6 months after the plan is implemented, that we give the community an opportunity to respond to what's happened.
Well, I would, my opinion on that is the delineators, if this continues, or if this social streets goes away, then you could remove the delineators pretty easily. As far as the reversal.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I mean, I'm just, I know we get public input into what we're planning to do. We're not getting any because we don't know exactly what's going to happen. I just want to be able to make sure the public has time to respond after 6 months or so to see if it goes away, it goes away. Then really won't be any much of a response.
Yeah, and I see DOT doing a lot of street reversals throughout all 5 boroughs. And as far as like fluidity of the grid, I think in Manhattan you could kind of just forget that idea because the grid is very.
I'm not saying any particular plan. Whatever is implemented, I just think we may not understand the unintended consequences of what happens. So and I just hope that there aren't any, and they'll continue the way it's best for you. But I think we should have a planned opportunity for people to respond if there isn't.
We're happy to evaluate it, and we take any feedback. And I mean, we're happy to just sit down with anybody and discuss what the effects are of these ideas.
I'm just saying, give it 6 months worth of work, and then see what happens. I want to plan it because if people don't know that there's a place to respond, they may not. I just want to have something that's set on our agenda that we can cover. We'll have an opportunity to respond. That's all.
Okay.
Paul and Alicia, I'm not sure how you want to run this. If you want to take each question and
I can't see raised hands. Michael, can you see raised hands?
So Trevor and David Crane both have their hands raised right now.
Okay.
And
Trevor.
so does Michelle.
I think Trevor had his hand up first.
Oh, Paul, you can see.
I can see hands.
Okay.
Thank you, Captain, for attending and explaining the difference in response times. I wasn't aware of that, and I think that's important. What I don't hear.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
What I did not hear from you, and what I think is important, because I did hear 4 speakers in the beginning talk about the pleasure of having these streets open, but my concern is that we're really talking about lives when you talk about seconds and minutes and even 5 or 6 minutes. Can you tell us how important these seconds or these minutes are for saving people's lives? Because I'm a little concerned that we're hearing everyone talking about the fact of walking the streets, but if you encounter a crowded street where you have to remove barriers and put them back in, that's minutes that could be someone's life.
Yeah. Now there are fire models, right, about growth of fire and how a fire expands, how rapidly a fire can expand. This is science, but I would tell you that 15 seconds of a fire, it will go from one room on fire, and then in 15 seconds, that one room of fire could extend to 2 rooms of fire. And that's how quickly it will go, depending on what contents are inside burning. So that's just to give you a rough idea. Yes, mere seconds matter. And as far as lives, if somebody is breathing in poisonous, noxious fumes, they have a matter of, we have seconds to get, if you're breathing in noxious fumes for 30 seconds, that's the threshold where your life is in jeopardy past 30 seconds. So if we get to somebody at 22 seconds as opposed to 32 seconds, you're talking about somebody surviving or somebody expiring. So that's how critical seconds are for us. And I mean, I could talk all day and I could go into you have the Reese houses, and I think they're called the Lillian Wald houses in the area, which are NYCHA houses. And we respond quite frequently to these houses. Anytime you respond to these fireproof buildings, this is what's known as a fireproof building. What happens is they're built so well that the fire is contained inside of them. There's nowhere for the fire to exit. There's nowhere for the superheated gases to go. These buildings become like ovens when there's fires. We run into multiple problems such as elevators not working. All sorts of hazards occur. So just to sum it up, 10 seconds could be life or death in the fire service.
Thank you.
Okay.
David. David Crane. No, David. Thought I saw his hand up. Michelle.
Thanks, Paul. Thank you, Captain Molloy, for coming. I just wanted to ask you, because I'm not sure if you had a chance or you saw the resolution that we passed in our committee, because we had a couple of proposed solutions that we developed in conjunction with another rep from FDNY. So I just wanted to make sure that if you thought that any of these were unworkable. One was reversing 2nd Street, which Paul already mentioned. One was creating a dedicated first responder northbound lane. I think, Paul, are we thinking about removing the East 4th Street because of problems there? And then the other one would be to create some sort of solution where there would be no barriers on Avenue B so that there wouldn't be impediments. So I'm just hoping that you could give us some guidance there if you think that those would be workable solutions. Thank you.
You know, I apologize. I did not review the resolutions. My office is much more than just these social streets, but I am technically the expert here, but we have an incredible workload and we are short-staffed, as everybody knows. In the city, resources are at a premium. So I've heard what you said. I don't know how many resolutions were put forth. I've heard what you said. I like you're talking about making some type of obstruction along Avenue B instead of barricades. That sounds like a good idea. And if that's what you are proposing, we would just talk about what type of widths we would need, say, in front of police blocks. Maybe that's something you're talking about, and that's something we would definitely be open to.
Yeah, we were talking about maybe leaving one lane closed for pedestrians and one lane open for first responders. So like the northbound lanes, you could just make that right onto B and go straight up and make the same right onto 10th that they used to before all of this. That was one of our proposed solutions. Yeah,
that would be great. We could talk width. I would just say on the table, 15 feet sounds like a good width, if you could provide that. And I would just say, how would you deter civilian vehicles? Are you talking fines? Because anywhere there's an opening large enough for a car in this city, in my experience, the car is going to go down there. So how are you deterring the civilian vehicles from that? Okay. I mean, I would suggest you could post signs about fines or have somebody post it there. Or if you think just keeping 15 feet wide open and bright signs saying this is emergency response only, maybe that'll be effective also.
Well, in my ideal world, we'd paint the street, but I doubt DOT would go for that. So
they might. They might. We've done that before in the past with them.
I see Robin.
Yeah, hi, thanks. I just wanted to follow up on what Michelle just said, you know, the fire lane idea, which I know most street festivals have to keep on. So that seems like the simplest solution. But I also had a question about the parked cars on Avenue B, and I don't know if this could be added, some friendly resolution to add that those stretch of blocks don't have any parked cars, which would also create more room for both pedestrians if you're going to do a pedestrian lane and an emergency access lane. So that would be something.
Well, the fire department likes the sound of that, but I know in my experience that's going to be a heavy lift for in the community to get rid of parking, as we know it's at a premium. So anything that you could give us drivable real estate for, we'll agree to. So, I mean, I maybe, are there any other further resolutions that maybe I should be made aware of right now? I mean, I think we pretty much covered everything that is possible as far as, you know, simultaneously keeping this thing open and providing proper access for the fire department.
Well, I think that's why we wanted to ask you what was your potential ideas of what you would like to see happen for that firehouse on Avenue B. Like that's
Okay,
why
so-
that's what are the things
So
you wanted?
if you're
to
saying
see,
the fire department wish list, the wish list first would be reverse 2nd Street. That would be the best for them. And I'm vaguely familiar with their response patterns as far as the clusters of where they respond to most and where they go to most. This is unofficial. This is not official numbers, but just in my experience, because I work down there, they respond along the FDR to the Reese houses and to the Lillian Walt houses. That's a large number of their responses. So, and that's really, this closure is really disrupting that response route. So yes, so Avenue C reversing is first, delineators is second, and then if you could make up some kind of barricades, blocks, signage, that would be third.
So just to be clear, you wouldn't want any streets to be reopened up, like 6th to 10th or anything like that.
Well, in a perfect world, yes, but under these circumstances, no. We understand the efficiency and effectiveness of these streets, so we encourage them to be closed, but then we also have to make everybody aware of the obstruction they're creating as we try to respond and try to fight fires and emergencies. So there's the answer to that.
Okay, thank you.
There's the political answer for that one.
Thank you. I think last
Okay.
question I'll take is Carolyn on this.
Okay, I just wanted to make a comment. One of my neighbors, who's a mother of 3 small children, was hit by a car speeding down Avenue B when she had the light, because people came off the Williamsburg Bridge and used Clinton Street and Avenue B as a freeway. So having the street closed in portions has been a godsend for our neighborhood, particularly with people with small children trying to cross the street to get to Tompkins Square Park, to the playgrounds. So anything that could be done to facilitate safety for both. I mean, I understand the need for the fire department, and if a resolution could be worked out so that that section between 6th and 10th Street could remain open to pedestrians, because we have so many small children here in the neighborhood. You know, Ginny was out of work for months because of being hit
there
by that car.
are traffic calming measures that wouldn't require closing the street, like speed bumps. I don't know, are there a lot of speed bumps down Avenue B? But if your goal is to slow traffic down, there's not. So that's a measure that you could suggest as a resolution, to install speed bumps along Avenue B. That would slow traffic down.
It's better if there could be a way that at least one lane could be, you know, closed for pedestrians for use and stuff, because it's made a huge difference in our neighborhood to have people have access to the street in terms of safety.
David, you want to jump in? I see at your back.
Yes, I am back. I'm so sorry. My computer battery went dead and then it rebooted and I just got back. Okay. I'm very concerned. I'm just going to speak for a while. I'm very concerned about public safety now. I actually don't think that going down 6th Street is a safe way for the fire engine to go. There are the speed bumps along 6th Street they really do have to stop. I have actually been looking up Avenue B. I live at 6th and B, just a little bit toward A. And I've never seen people using Avenue B next to Tompkins Square Park while it's in an open street mode. it's desirable at my corner to go around the street because there is a choke point of about 4 foot, sidewalk width. But even there, people are not using it. They'd never use it before 10 a.m. I always walk my dog. Now I'm starting to go out in the afternoon and I'll look north and see a few bikes along Avenue B and south. The fact is the sidewalks are not too narrow along Avenue B, especially next to Tompkins Square Park. There are only restaurants on the one block between 6th and 7th. I don't think people use the street because it doesn't feel safe, even though it is blocked off. They will in other locations, but they're not doing it there. So I don't think that there's a trade-off here. I think we must deal with public safety. And I talked first, so I really am not supposed to be making an amendment here, and I won't, but I would like to offer an amendment if I could speak a second time, just to put public safety, to make it clear that public safety is first, and that if they cannot, if they cannot come up with a safe way to get the fire engines to go up Avenue B from 6th Street to 10th Street, then we do support removing the open street designation for that stretch of Avenue B. On the other hand, if they can do it, then we want it to try to do the whole length of Avenue B with the safer treatment. And I'm going to stop now. I have the amendment ready to go, but I'll make it next time I get to speak.
Okay, so let me just add to that. Let me just add to that. So the fire department is the worst case scenario for the fire department is to remove this, because we want to work in partnership with all the agencies and with the board to make New York City a safe and friendly environment for people to exist in. So the last resort is to remove it. I'm on the phone to come up with a solution where you can keep it open, but at the same time, keep a lane open for the fire department to use that we're not obstructed. So that's my purpose for being on the call. So I think there are other measures that can be taken before we have to get to the worst case scenario, which is removing it from the program. And I think I put forth and everybody's kind of come up with good solutions here that we can still provide a fire access lane while keeping this area closed.
Well, that's encouraging to hear.
Thank you. Clinton, you had your hand up before?
Yeah, I just want clarification. The flexible delineators won't work at 2nd Street because at the moment, 2nd Street is only closed from Friday until Sunday. It's not a full week closure like the north part of Avenue B. And the only other thing I would, just as a compromise, to add to the northbound emergency lane, I know it might be hard to keep regular cars off it. What about if we just kept one northbound lane open for all traffic, whether it be fire emergency vehicles or northbound cars, and kept one, then I guess what would be the southbound lane permanently closed for the entire week. That way there would still be one northbound access open at all times, and there would still be a partial street closure that would give some more open space.
But so does that mean that now Avenue B is just a one-way traveling north and no movement south? That's what you're saying?
Yes.
There's no buses on Avenue B, is that correct? There's no bus routes?
There are no bus routes on Avenue B.
No.
I mean, that's a possibility. That's a possibility.
Robin, I see you.
Yeah, I think my one concern about that, Clint, is that if you have one lane is pedestrians and you've got one lane that's got traffic heading north and you need a fire truck to come through quickly, where do those cars go? Where do they go to move out of the way, of the emergency vehicles? I wonder if there's gonna be a combination where you have one lane closed for pedestrians and those flexible barricades that you talk about could be put on the and just make it an emergency lane so that cars would be deterred from going on there at all.
I don't mean to interrupt, although I am interrupting, but I just want to suggest that because we only have Captain for a limited time, that if we can focus on questions specifically for the fire department right now, rather than a back and forth debate among the members, I think that would be most helpful, because I believe the captain needs to leave us in about 5 minutes.
Okay, I direct my question to him if he thinks that that would be workable if traffic is also on the avenue and when a fire truck's trying to get through.
You know, I would like to like analyze that scenario. I don't want to give an answer right now because I'd have to see what the parking restrictions are. I would have to talk to the local units, get a feel. I mean, I did work down there, so I have a fair enough idea, but I would like to get a better feel of Avenue B as far as day in, day out to hear what I would love to run it by the battalion commander of Battalion 4 before I make any kind of statements.
Thank you.
So, you know,
Go ahead.
What I would suggest that if anybody wants to, Ms. Stetzer has my email. So if anybody wants to put some kind of ideas together, proposals together, email them to me, and then I'll take a look at them. I'll analyze them. I'll bring them to the chain of command to who needs to make the final decision, and then we could bring it back and discuss it again.
Paul, I see Carolyn has her hand up.
Yeah. Is it for the fire, for FDNY?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. First and foremost, I use the open street to go to 12th Street to the community garden there. And there are people that are using it. They're bicyclists, they're mothers with carriages when I go to the garden in the morning. Okay. The other thing is that Avenue B is one way. It's only northbound traffic, period. So if you're talking about saving one lane for pedestrians, the section that I'm in, it runs from Houston Street to 14th Street. It's one way.
Avenue B is two-way.
Avenue B is 2 ways.
Really? Because the cars are all parked going north.
Carolyn, is there a specific question that you have for?
I just think it's important that if there was some way of preserving one lane going for pedestrians, that would be really important for the neighborhood.
Okay, so thank you so much. If that's all questions tonight, Paul, any other comment?
I guess we can pull up that resolution.
Okay. Yeah, pull up the resolution. I'm sorry?
Yeah. No.
Okay. So, Michael, can you pull up the resolution? Thank you.
All right, well, I have to sign off. I want to thank everybody for the time.
Thank you so much. Yes.
Thank you.
Very helpful.
And Ms. Stetzer could be the point person, and anything you have for me, you could run it through her, and I'll be happy to discuss any type of proposals to make this work for the city.
Thank you. So Alicia,
Okay.
just so you're aware, Michelle is now sharing her screen so she can edit as needed as the secretary.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
David, did you have? David,
So
did you have something you needed to say?
And I should just say that the track changes that everyone's seen are just things that we were talking about maybe adding when we heard that this was going to be happening. So they have not been added yet.
Okay.
I am back. Yes, I would like to amend this resolution down in the whereases. It's just going to emphasize that public safety is a priority, but we can then talk about it after I get it. Oh my gosh. This is terrible. My windows are crazy. The thing is that this Zoom window keeps going full screen when you, there we go. Now I can share with another ding window. So down in the resolved clauses, if you can scroll those up, see that further resolved? The first further resolved there? If you scroll much more, you're going to get rid of it. I would like to put another further resolved above that. And it
Above
would
it?
say above it, yeah. And I got the text that I could cut and paste into a, who's dealing with this Word document? If you just
David, I
got
might already
changes-
have it. Is it
No.
this?
Yeah, it would be above that.
Okay.
So that would go as the first one here. There you go.
Okay.
So that is my amendment, is to add that further resolve. If those options aren't feasible or won't give FDNY quicker access to Avenue D, the city should remove the open street installation on Avenue B from East 6th to East 10th Street, and the open restaurants designation for Avenue B between, okay, someone had modified it after I sent it, but that's fine because I hear that's problematic. And the open restaurants designation for Avenue B between 2nd and 3rd Street in order to protect public safety by providing for efficient and timely response of FDNY units in the area. The next clause will still exist. I would actually like to change that while considering these options to say, just to clarify that, to say that if those options are feasible and will give FDNY and will protect public safety, Instead of give FDNY, I would say, and will protect public safety. We don't need to put the whole same long clause. And then delete while considering those options is what I would like to have happen. Or that's good the way you wrote it. That if they're feasible, that they should consider whether, extending along Avenue. I actually made that amendment at committee, that we would actually, wow, if they can make it safe from 6th to 10th, let's do the whole avenue like it had originally been desired. I just want us to now debate whether we should include this further resolved in this clarifying language, so that our first priority would be evident that, look, it's public safety. If they really cannot come up with a solution that's safe, we would prefer that they get rid of the open streets designation there. I don't want it to go another month because I really think it's a bad situation over on anywhere east of the park is a bad situation. But you understand that we've got like 24-story buildings, I believe, over on Avenue D. And if there were to be a disaster, it would be a disaster if there were a fire. And we know that the local firehouse is arriving to the scene second, whereas they ordinarily arrive first. So it is definitely, the open streets thing has, as installed, has increased response time. And I think that that's a dangerous thing. If they're still unsure that they can fix it, I want us to put this clause in here so that they don't waste a lot of time. If they decide they cannot fix the route that they have now, with open streets there now, if they can't make it coexist in a safe way, I want the board on record that we would prefer to they cut the open streets out. I'm done.
Thank you, David. Okay. I saw Lee had his hand up. Did you see that, Paul? Okay, Lee, unmute yourself.
Yeah, I would agree with David. I think the paramount concern here is public safety, and it has to be in the hands of FDNY making the ultimate determination. That's it.
Thanks, Lee. You just scroll up a little bit. Do we have to, David, do we have to adopt this portion right now? Sorry, there's a lot of noise in the background.
Okay, we should debate as whether we want to insert this or not, because I'm sure that there would be debate, but we should focus on, should we approve of this addition or not? So that's what I would recommend, doing that, and then we vote on this amendment. Then we're back to discussing the larger motion.
I'm personally
Is that
fine.
clear?
I'm personally fine with that amendment.
I think the easiest way to do this might be just to ask if, if there's anybody opposed to adding this language to the resolution, can you please raise your hand and make a comment as to why you oppose this being added? There are no hands being raised, so in my mind, this then gets added as a.
Michael Clint's raising
Yes.
his hand.
Oh,
I'm raising my hand. So so here's my question. I'm not 100% opposed to it. My only question is this basically just giving them an out from what we're already saying in the resolution? And that's a question more for, David Crane or Paul.
I was going to take it as a rhetorical question. I don't think it does. I think it's clear that we're saying and I do want the open streets to remain, but I don't want them to. You see what's going on is there's something wrong between DOT and FDNY right now. This thing came very quickly. In fact, they installed it before they even came to the community board, the Avenue B stretch, okay? It went in super fast. Was there adequate planning? I have to believe that there was not. At this point, we are now, well over a month. We're almost 2 months into the installation. There was, struggles happening before the committee met, which was 2 weeks ago, and it's still, the city has not yet figured this out. It does lead you to believe that there actually is not a good solution, and I want the struggling to stop. So I really do want to provide them this. Is it providing them an out? I don't think it does. Someone else might.
Yeah, I think when we were at committee, our whole purpose was to make sure FDNY and DOT started talking, because they weren't talking at all about any of this. And then when DOT presented, we talked about 2nd and 3rd Street potentially being closed, and they went and closed it anyway, like a day or two later.
Yeah.
So it kind of just blew up right in our face. So I think we need to strengthen this right now. I don't know if it's giving them an out, but even the restaurants between 3rd and 4th are trying to apply for the open restaurant designation right now as well. So it's about to take up all of Avenue B, and that's going to really hurt FDNY and any other first responder.
I will tell you that DOT is very in favor of keeping open streets open. So I don't think that it is giving them out, because actually they're the ones who would have to make that decision. And it's not like they're itching to get rid of open streets. Quite the contrary.
Michelle.
You guys already said it's like been Clint, just so you know, like DOT has just literally not been listening to anything that has been said by FDNY. So I think that's why adding this would be important.
True, but that's my point. We don't need to be labored anymore. But I agree with you exactly. I think go ahead. That's fine.
Robin.
Well, I was trying to make sure, I found it though. At the last therefore, it talks about resolving this without delay. I was wondering what the timing of this, that's all. I think that's been solved. But I did want to also, I made my point or added, I don't know if we could add a friendly amendment to the 4th Street comment about no parking, and also adding to that, I would like to add a friendly change to say, where is that line about the traffic? It's somewhere. Oh, yes, removing parking on East 4th Street. I would like to extend that to remove parking on East 4th Street and on Avenue B between 2nd and 10th Streets on the east side, if that's the side of the street that the fire department, we want to make this into an emergency lane.
Paul, I think we're still debating the original amendment from David, right? Not a new one.
Yeah, there's hands raised in terms of debating Dave's amendment. Michael, are we good, or are we still debating it?
You're still debating it at this point. I would take Val's hand and then ask the question again. And at that point, if nobody wants to debate anymore, if everyone's fine and agrees, then it can be accepted and inserted.
So we have to do that first and then come back to add anything else. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, we have to do one addition at a time.
Yes, thank
you. Is it Valentina?
Yeah, well, I'm for this because all I can think about is that if we don't do this and we don't do something, the way that change would happen would probably be somebody's life. that that's how change would happen. If we don't do this, then change will happen when FDNY does not show up on time, or somebody dies, or somebody has some respiratory problem from inhaling some noxious gas because it took them however long to get there. So, you know, I just think that this to me is just, this is about life. This is about health. This is, and the whole reason this all came up is about life and health. So I think if we don't do this, then life and health is what's going to be the determining factor. And I just think that that's absolutely terrible, because he basically said that most of this is going to be over in Jacob Reese and Lillian Wall, where you have a majority of poor Black and Latino people, which I think is totally disgusting if we don't do this. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's.
Michael. Who is that?
That's right. So there's no other hands raised, so I guess I'll just ask the question again. If there's anybody opposed to this language being inserted into the resolution, please raise your hand.
Okay. So
Right.
looks good,
so,
right?
Yeah, looks good. So now
Okay.
we can move on to any other proposed language.
Yeah.
So can I add I would like to propose to add to the resolution that talks about removing parking on East 4th Street, to also add to remove parking on East 4th Street, as well as Avenue B between 6th and 10th Street on the lane that would be the fire lane, or whatever you want to call it, the emergency access lane, or that whole stretch of it, I guess. The northbound, right? Someone can please help me
So
with that.
at the moment, parking is already suspended from Thursday through Saturday on the evenings. When this starts on Friday, the 2nd Street to 3rd Street is closed starting on Friday. The current parking regulations on that side start on Thursday night through Saturday. There's a no parking zone. So I don't know if that affects that or not.
East side of Avenue B between 6th and 10th Street. About right.
Yeah, I'm not sure exactly the boundaries, but I know it's along the east side of Avenue B for a good part of the way.
Right? Am I to be corrected?
Between 6th and 10th Street, yeah.
However it's written earlier.
That's not how it was written earlier.
I don't have it in front of me to look at the language, so you have to scroll. I'll tell you what it says. Between East 6th Street and East 10th Street. Avenue B between East 6th Street and East 10th Street.
Okay. Okay. All right. Any other amendment suggestions from anyone? No, we're good. I think this is good, Paul.
Michelle has her hand up.
Oh, Michelle.
Yeah, so I added in these other track changes per what Captain Malloy said, removing the barricades on Avenue B in favor of flexible delineators that FDNY vehicles could drive over. And then in terms of the dedicated first responder lane, he had said that it would need to be at least 15 feet wide and clearly delineated. So I added both of those. And then I also added a whereas clause, or proposed to add a whereas clause here explaining about the open restaurants designation, because when we were in committee, the open restaurants designation between East 2nd Street and East 3rd Street did not exist. It happened 2 days after we passed this resolution in committee, and so there's no whereas clause addressing that. So I proposed to add some additional context around that. This one, and then just the 15 feet wide for the emergency responder lane and the flexible delineators as suggested by Captain Malloy. I apologize, I can't show both at the same time, so I'll have to scroll back and forth.
David.
Yeah, the flexible delineators came up right as my computer went down. So I kind of missed what that was it the idea that there would be flexible plastic delineators, which are used, if you notice them, to separate traffic lanes going to a bridge or something so that cars stay in their lane? Was it to be using that as the block traffic instead of the cute? Yeah.
Yeah, it was to use it to block the traffic, but the trucks can get over them without a problem.
Right. That is true, and they do break from time to time, and these would get run over quite often, 10 times a day. They're 10 to 20 times a day they're going through. I guess we can leave it here as an option. I think it's the least likely to happen. See, they would have to be taken down every day and put back up. So
Yes,
anyway,
that's the
let's go
problem.
ahead and
They
leave
can't.
it. That's a suggestion. That's good.
Okay. All right. What is this? There's a misspell up there.
Therefore.
That's somebody's last name.
Okay.
So, David, correct me if I'm wrong, but this resolution as amended will just be folded into our final vote at the end of the evening, or do we need to vote on it separately?
No, we could put the whole thing back into the calendar agenda. Yeah, that's perfectly fine, unless someone wants us to vote on it right now, which I don't want to myself.
Oh, we can vote. We can vote on it all together, I think, right?
Yeah.
All the amendments have been made. Michelle.
Yeah, I think so. Everything's in here that I suggested and that Robin suggested and that David suggested.
Okay. All right. So, Paul, how are you with this?
I'm all right.
Okay.
I'm fine.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're gonna put it back into the calendar for a roll call vote, and we're gonna go back.
Thank you, Alicia.
Back into the agenda. Okay, you're welcome. So.
Board chair report.
Yes, I really don't have a lot to report. I just wanted to say I wanted to continue to encourage the new members to attend their committee meetings and to attend the full board meetings. I know it's summertime. I know people are starting to go outside and frolic, as my grandma would say. But I just want you to, remember your responsibility to the board and attending your committee meetings. Even for seasoned members, please don't forget to attend your committee meetings. I know that people have things that come up. Please be in communication with the board, the chairs of the committees in which you sit on, or the subcommittees of which you sit on, so that they know what's going on, because if you don't tell us, we don't know. And I want to welcome David Adams back, as he has been dealing with his own personal things happening in his home. If you'd like to talk to David about what's going on with him, please, everyone, connect with him privately. Thank you all again, and please have a great summer. Stay safe, stay hydrated during this heat wave, and continue to attend as many meetings as you possibly can on Zoom. All right, that's it. So let's go to the next.
It should be our district manager's report, but she's no longer on the call.
Yeah, I know. So we're going to go past the district manager's report, and we're going to go executive committee. There was nothing really to report with the executive committee. SLA.
Nothing to report. We got all the stipulations that are part of the resolutions.
Thank you, Alex. Landmark.
Nothing to report.
Thank you, Linda. Land use. Jackie.
We didn't pass any resolution, but I just have a few small updates on some projects. The first is 70 Marbury Street. The city has already allocated $80 million for the redevelopment of the site. And currently, they have stopped the demolition, and DCAS also in the process of hiring a consultant to conduct a community engagement process. So they want to see what the community's vision for this site is and then decide what to do. They also announced that they are going to reopen the lane of Bayer Street soon, but they didn't tell us the exact time of the reopening. And also next month, the Land Use Committee will have a presentation on the Two Bridges rezoning application. Anyone who is interested in this topic can join us at the Land Use. That's all I have.
Thank you, Jackie. Transportation just met. Economic development. Anisha?
No updates for economic development.
Thank you. Health and Seniors and Human Services, Maylee.
Hello. Well, at the July meeting, we talked about district needs. This past Monday, I attended the Manhattan Borough President's, the Manhattan Complete Count Committee press conference to launch the Census Week. The press conference was in Chinatown. I know that a few of the other board members were also there. We heard, from someone from New York City Census talk about the upcoming week of action. And he did say that, the response rate in our area is something from 49 to 53%. So that means that there's another 50 or 41% that haven't responded. So that really is a lot of people. In spite of all the rah-rah, we're doing a good job. So we are doing a good job, but we need to do a better job. And maybe we can follow up with that. I'm hoping we can follow up with that representative to find out, maybe through the hard to count map, what are the areas that we need to work on? And if any of the board members are interested in volunteering for that, that would be really good. And I know that, they also offer the option where you can reach out to your own family and friends. But if we could do something to reach out to those who haven't answered yet, that would be good.
Yeah.
So if we can, we can maybe follow up with that later, Alicia.
Yeah, sure. And if you'd like, we can explore it a little more during exec and see what else we can do.
Yeah, well, there's this week of action coming up. So it's like this week. It's going to be
this week. So
it's this week because the enumerators go out on August 11th. So that's why they're doing it.
Okay.
Now.
So what would you suggest, May, that we maybe have an email, a blast that goes out, or should we post something on the social media page or?
Well, we could do an email blast out and something on the social media, but the email blast, at least to our members.
Yeah, our members. Yeah.
Yeah, to our members. And then, they're encouraging people to participate in the other stuff too. Like anyone can, just sign up on their sign up Google Doc and sign up for something. But if we just want to focus on our area, we could send a blast for our area.
Okay.
I focus on reaching our area.
So do we need?
Like if you volunteer with them, then you'll just volunteer in general. But you understand what I mean?
Okay, I do understand what you mean. So would you like to prepare an email and then let me review it and then we can send it out?
Sure.
That would be great. Thank you so much, May.
And Alicia, if I can, I just want to add that I know that Joe and Tatiana have posted about the census on our social media.
Yes, they have.
Before, so we can simply, again, after May gets you whatever language she wants, we can simply just send them an email asking them to do it on a regular basis from now through October 31st, so that maybe every couple of weeks they post something.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, that sounds good.
I'm so sorry, Trevor. I'm gonna go back to you, Parks.
Just for that, I'm going to do a 1-hour update on ESCR. I'm just kidding. I'll be brief. We didn't have any votes, but for all board members and committee members, ESCR will come to Parks Committee every month, as they have been for probably the last year and a half, maybe longer. But for next month, we will also have what's going on below ESCR. So Pier 42, Pier 36, Pier 35, the Brooklyn Bridge Montgomery Coastal Resiliency, and the Brooklyn Bridge Esplanade. All of those will be on the calendar for next month. They will be relatively brief updates, but as you're all aware, the entire coastline of CB3 is under some sort of construction or redevelopment. If you're interested, you can attend Mark's meeting for next month, and just be aware that ESCR is on the calendar for every month. Thank you. Any questions? Thanks.
Thank you, Trevor. Okay, now let's have a roll call vote.
Okay. David Adams.
Yes.
Yaron Altman.
Yes. Present not voting on transportation number 2. I work for New York City DOT.
Okay. Jesse Beck.
Yes.
Dominic Berg. Lee Berman.
Yes.
Carlin Chan.
Yes.
Jonathan Chu.
Not on.
Not on. Okay, thank you. David Crane.
Yes.
Felicia Cruikshank.
She must have dropped off. I don't see her anymore.
Okay. Eric Diaz. Alistair Economakis.
I think he dropped off as well.
Yep. Shirley Fennessy.
Yes.
Ryan Gillen.
Not on.
Deborah Glass.
Yes.
Thank you. Andrea Gordillo.
Yes.
Thank you. Herman Hewitt. Herman, you're on mute.
Yes.
Thank you. Trevor Holland.
Yes.
Linda Jones.
Yes.
Valentina Jones.
Yes.
Tatiana Jorio.
Yes.
Lisa Kaplan.
Yes.
Olympia Kazi. Joseph Kearns.
Yes.
Michelle Coopersmith. Yes. May Lee.
Yes.
Wendy Lee.
Yes.
Alicia Lewis Coleman.
Yes.
David Louie. David Louie, I see you're off mute. Okay, David, I'll come back to you. Ellen Liu.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, David. Ellen Liu.
Ellen's not on.
Ellen. Michael Marino.
Yes.
Alex Molitano.
Yes.
Michael Perlis.
Not on.
Tariq Ramos.
Yes.
Paul Rangel.
Yes.
Carolyn Ratcliffe.
Yes.
Damaris Reyes. Damaris, you're on mute. Okay, Damaris, I'll come back to you. Richard Ropiak.
Yes.
Thomas Rosa.
Yes.
Robin Chattel.
Yes.
Heidi Schmidt.
Yes.
Larissa Scheinberg.
Hi.
Okay, I have some leftover.
Oh, I think someone's off mute.
Shirley. I got her.
Thank you. Larissa Scheinberg. Clint Smeltzer.
Yes.
Anisha Stephen.
Yes.
Sandra Strother.
Yes.
Josephine Velez.
Yes.
Troy Velez.
He's not on.
Rodney Washington.
Yes.
Kathleen Webster,
Yes.
Jackie Wong,
Yes.
Ricky Wong.
Yes.
Thank you. Damaris Reyes. Damaris, if you're there, you're still on mute.
Trying to unmute her and I can't.
Okay.
Oh, and Alistair is back.
Okay, Alistair Economakis. Alistair,
Yes.
thank you. Damaris is still on mute, Michael. I don't know what you want to.
Yeah, I can't. I keep trying. I keep asking her to unmute, but she might not be near her computer.
Yeah,
Sorry. Nothing I can do.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank
Thank
you,
you.
Michelle.
Thank you.
Okay, if we have, does anyone have any old business? Okay. Anyone have any new business? All right, so we'll have a motion to adjourn.
That was pretty much it. Good night, everybody.
Yeah, that's it, everyone. Thank you all.
Thank
Thank
you.
Stay
you.
hydrated,
Thank you.
everyone.
Good night.
Have a
Hey, good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Everybody, have a good weekend.
Thank you.